We are going north. That's right. Tonight on the show, we are going to talk everything fishing north. All that and a bunch more on this edition of Tackle Shop Live.
A sunny day, right there you took my breath away. A young and
hey, Scott Lutkoff, Dave Richardson, what's up, man?
The next day you called me.
Michelle Renee, what's going on? Mike Hayer.
You came over and you
Ken, what do you say, Ken? Jamie Johnson, how you guys doing? Greg Blake, how are you, pal? David Schottlemeyer, Andy Garrett, Jeff Riddle, Tammy Greenman. What do you say? How's everybody doing tonight? Mike Barr, how are you? Man, good to see everybody stopping in. JJ Outdoors, what's up, man? Love anything outdoors. Yeah. We got a great show tonight. Last week we were going to do this show, but we had that great guest on and had a really good time with him. Keith Howard, how are you? Terry Klauser, how you doing, buddy? Ed K, what's up, Ed K? Steve Hableeb, how you doing? Yeah, we got a great show for you guys tonight. We are going to be talking north fishing.
The Northern Swing.
The Northern Swing. I don't know if anybody was watching the pre Tackle Shop Live, but George and I field many questions from customers coming in here that are going up north. You know, what do I do? How do, what am I looking for? I never went up there before. What, some things that I should take. And, we kind of got it down to a little cluster of things that you need to do, you need to look for, you need to fish, different techniques that apply to all that water. It's not just to one thing or one body of water. No, there might be a bait that's specific to one Finger Lake or a bait specific to Lake Ontario or Thousand Islands or something. But mostly the techniques are pretty similar. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and we're going to narrow some of that down. And it'll be it'll be good because it'll refresh us on some of these things that are working up there, and remind us as we go up there, hey, we got to remember to take this stuff, and we got to remember to fish this way and look for this and that. So we'll get into that big time here in a little bit. Then we're going to go into some tackle talk. We got some new baits we're going to talk about, and some other things we're going to go over. We're going to go over the DC real quick too tonight, and refresh everybody on the DC reels and what they're all about and the casting of those and how great they are. We're going to review that a little bit, and then a little bit of tournament talk. The Lake Oneida Open started today, and
Boy, did it ever!
Yeah, and it was kind of why we brought this up now. The Northern Swing is because the Elite Series is going up there, the Opens are up there, all these tournaments now are going up and switching up to that area up there. So you're going to be hearing about all this stuff. And we thought, vacations for people and everything that goes up there, we get a lot of stuff. So we're gonna bust into that, and that's why we brought the show on tonight. Yeah, man. Raymond Barton, how you doing? And Dale Madria, how you? Lisa Lake Mark, how you doing from Lisa Lake Fishing Club? Robert Donahue, yeah, recommendation for guides on the Finger Lakes in St. Lawrence River. We can talk about a few of those. We know a couple guys up there on the St. Lawrence and the Finger Lakes that you can call and talk to. Yeah, we love New York fishing. Absolutely. Richie Hall, how you doing, pal? First up this weekend, down on the Conowingo Pool at the Conowingo Open Bass Tournament Series is kicking off or is in full swing now. The third tournament before the summertime shutdown is this weekend, July 10th, 4:30 registration at Dorsey Park Ramp on the Conowingo Pool. Blast off at 5:30 and weigh in is at 2 p.m. $100 entry fee, just a good tournament to go to. $100 per boat. You split it with your buddy, it's $50. You got a shot at winning, $800-900. So it's not a bad little gig. $10 optional lunker pot, which I always tell people, get in it.
Hey, it could be the only fish you catch. I don't care what tournament you fish.
Yeah.
Any option to get into anything, get in it. Because, and I always tell the famous story. Years and years and years ago, I was fishing a really big tournament. A lot of boats. I mean, it was like a couple hundred boats. And lunker was like $2,500.
Yeah.
And, I weighed my fish in, and the tournament director, if you can imagine this, I don't know, he just didn't like me that much. He was on my case all day, from registration in the morning until weigh-in, and he goes, "Man, that's a nice fish, but it's not quite big enough." And here a guy had weighed in a fish that was 1 ounce bigger than mine. And lunker was like $2,500.
Yeah.
Well, when they got done calculating the winners out, turns out that man didn't pay his $10 lunker fee that day. He declined. So guess what? For $10,
yeah,
he passed on $2,500, and I didn't have any problem putting it in my pocket. So always get in the lunker. And if there's an option pot, always get in the option pot. And a lot of people are always asking me and Mike and cameraman Nick and the SFT team, what's the option pot? What's an option pot? What's the option pot? Even when we have our Summer Slam tournament, we get asked about the option pot. Basically, an option pot is a side pot. So it's 100% payback. It's basically a bet. You're basically signing up. And generally speaking, it'll be paid out 2 or 3 spots. Never do I see the option pot go deeper than 3.
Yeah.
And it's 100% payback. So if it's a 3 spot payback, it's usually like 50, 30, 20.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to win the tournament to win the option, because a lot of times, again,
guys
people don't get in the option. So, if there's a lunker, if there's an option, I don't care what tournament you're fishing, do yourself a favor, sign up for it. 1 ounce could be worth $2,500.
Yep, absolutely. So that's going on this weekend down at Conowinga Pool. That's the third one of a 7 tournament circuit. And of course, me and George are the Susquehanna Fishing Tackle is the key sponsor in that event. Then they have and then July 24th, a couple weeks later, there's a really neat tournament down there. Same people are putting it on. It's a Big Bass Bash. Pretty neat. It's based on big fish. You weigh in at 4 different periods during the day, and it's for that period. So if you have a 4-pound lunker at first thing in the morning, you can go in, see if it's the big fish for that period. If it's a big fish that period, you get paid $200, but they're paying 2 checks for each period, first and second lunker.
And on that body of water, that time of the year,
yeah,
I'm gonna just tell you right now, if you fish that tournament and you got a
2-pounder,
a 14-inch smallmouth, you might want to run over to the boat ramp and weigh in
just to check it,
because
things get a little squirrely down there.
You might be the winner.
So there's 12 payout periods, which there's 4 payout periods, 2 checks per period.
You might want to fill your gas tank too, because you're going to be running back and forth to the scales a lot.
Yeah. And once you weigh that fish, you have to throw it back and you go out fishing. But you can weigh a fish in every period if you want.
So I've fished a couple of these events over the years, and they're kind of fun. There's a social aspect to them. Basically,
yeah, it's different. It's fun.
Basically, you have the option to weigh in, 4 times a day. So, from an organizational standpoint of view, you want to have your weigh bag ready. You want to have your whole fish care management thing ready.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be hot. A lot of these tournaments, especially on this northern swing stuff, you're dealing with smallmouth. You're bringing them up out of deeper water. If you're fishing these hourly type tournaments, because they have them. I mean, every community seems to hold one. You're going to want your game in order there as far as handling of the fish.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be handling these fish. You're going to be running into weigh-in. You know, you want to take really good care of these fish in a summertime event like this. And I don't know, Nick, on pre tackle shop, did you do anything on fish care?
Yes, I did. If they go on Pre-Tackle Shop live, they can see we talked about the G juice. We talked about the non-puncturing
Clips.
Calling
Yeah.
clips.
Calling clips.
you know, and so on. And we talked a lot about ice.
Yeah.
You know, making sure you have a lot of ice with you.
Big thing in the summertime.
You know, Mike, sometime during the show tonight, if you have a segment where we could segue into that a little bit, you know, I have a very proven process that was taught to me by Gene Gilland, who was the conservation director for BASS. Laminated card, explained the process, went into it. It's very simple process. It's only going to take a couple minutes to describe it. So, you know, if you get an opportunity, Mike, to fit that in tonight, you know, segue into that as smoothly as you can, and to go along with what Nick was talking about, I got a little breakdown, real quick little breakdown that's very, very important for summertime tournament fishing.
So anyway, the Big Bass Bash is starting on July 24th. Now, what's really cool about this is he's going to have a kids division, you know, where if you want to bring your kid, you can go and you can fish it. You know, what's really cool too is if it gets like to a point where the kid doesn't want to fish anymore, you can weigh in 3 different times before, you know, 12 o'clock, we're ready to go home. We're leaving, you know, and you just go and you had 3 opportunities to.
And that's a really good idea, Mike.
Yeah.
If you have a small kid and it gets so brutal hot,
Yeah.
you can take one of the periods off. And
Sure.
Just be like, hey,
sit in your truck.
yeah.
We're gonna go up here. We're gonna weigh this fish. We're gonna sit in the truck for a while and cool off and maybe whatever. And then husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend teams. There's going to be a little separate thing for them. There's some, you know, like little gift cards and stuff that
What's
they're
he
going to
doing? Bringing like the house supercomputer down here to track all this
I
stuff?
don't know what he's doing. He's doing it. I don't know. I don't want to
know,
be.
Brian.
I don't want to be in his shoes.
He
but...
said he was bringing George. I don't know.
Oh, he's not bringing me
Yeah.
to that.
Well, I don't know, but he's going to do that. So it's a neat little thing, and
Nice try,
something
cameraman Nick.
a little different. If you do
Sounds
have
to me like cameraman Nick just volunteered to go run all the paperwork.
Okay. I think I'm not going to be around that day. No, I'm just-
Yeah.
I'll be down there.
But it'll be, you know, you could take your kid. If you ever wanted to fish a tournament with your kid, this is a great one to do, because if it gets ugly or whatever, and you don't feel like doing the whole tournament, you just bail out whenever. But lots of opportunity to win money. There's 4, 5, 6, or 7 different, or there's 4 different periods with 2 checks per period. So you got 8 chances, and then the final lunker overall gets paid also. So if you have the big fish for the whole thing, you're going to get a paycheck for that too. So it's pretty cool. It's a good little deal, something for you guys to consider. With
like
that,
Brett kicked in here, and he wants to know if he missed the beer sponsor for tonight.
oh
And Brett, you know, we went back to our roots tonight, Brett.
Yeah.
With the original 5-star.
yep, original 5-star.
And this is courtesy of Real Perfection Rod and Reel Repair Service.
Yeah,
They were kind enough to sponsor our show tonight with
Yeah.
the original 5-star beer, which we're partaking of a couple, of course.
yeah.
After a long day in the office.
Yeah, you work all day long.
know.
You know how it is. You sit down and you reflect on your great day you had at work and production. You know how much production you put out there. Sipping on a Miller Lite 5-star, and it's just, you know, just caps off the night. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks to Real Perfection. They're our go-to rod and reel repair shop. You know, we do a lot of rod and reel repair here at the store. And we don't actually do any of it here at the store. Let the truth be known.
So
them boys pick up, deliver.
Yep.
Perfection is in the name.
Yep.
And you know, they were kind enough to sponsor Tackle Shop Live tonight on the beverage department.
sure. So there you go, Brett. Kevin Carpenter, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Brian Ward, thanks
We
for
got
checking
Chuck
in.
Rife in the house.
Chuck Rife, man, the man, the myth, the legend. He is always in there with us. Thank you, Chuck. Good seeing
An
you.
A1 from day one.
I was talking to your buddy here the other day, and and we got some good old stories we were telling
He
again.
only has like 3 buddies, so you got to be really specific.
Doug Bachman, absolutely. You stop in, we're going to fix you up, and this show is going to go right along with your question there with the Seneca Lake and getting you all set up. So Kevin Geezy, how you doing? Good to see everybody. Thanks everybody for stopping in. You know, this is something we love to do. We love doing Tackle Shop Live. And without you guys, we wouldn't do it, you know, and every time we sign on and we see all you guys on there and we see our numbers clicking up there every Thursday night, we just love it. And it keeps us motivated to do it. But you know, make sure you go on our social media sites and show us a little love there and get some things going for us on that.
Click and like and share.
That really helps us.
What do we got to do, cameraman Nick?
Well, what we just came out with today is a contest.
Ah.
So if you go on our social media today, and this is going to be Facebook only, you will see it posted on TikTok. You will see it posted on Instagram and such, but you have to go on Facebook. There was a post out there today about taking a picture while you're fishing with the SFT lid of your choice. And on the 14th, which is next Thursday, we are going to take one of those photos and we're going to select a winner.
Yeah. And you're going to be posted up on the show.
An image.
An image.
We're going to be posting that image up on the show. So you know, make sure it's a good picture of you because it's going to be seen by thousands and thousands of people.
Millions.
Yeah, millions.
We're going to make you famous.
Yeah, we're going to make you famous. So, but there you go. What are you giving away? A tackle pack or something?
We didn't come up with it yet, but it's going to be something pretty cool.
It's going to be a cool little
it's not
prize.
Going to be like a boat or anything, is it?
George said he was going to get rid of his boat, right?
I'm not giving away like a new Phoenix or anything.
Well, it'll be
not.
a nice tackle pack or something, a rod. Maybe we can scrounge up a rod or a reel or something. But it'll be it's worth it. It's worth it. If you guys fishing this weekend and next week, make sure you start snapping some pictures. If you have a picture already, because a lot of guys wear our lids, you know, and taking pictures for a long time.
I wear them on to church.
Go ahead and use that picture. We just want to see them. And, you know, that's something we're trying to do more stuff like that, right,
well,
Nick?
We want to get people involved because, you know, that's what we do here.
Yeah.
We want to get everybody involved. You guys did a really good job getting these lids that everybody likes. And now if you can't, let's say you're from the South or whatever, you can't get to the shop, go online.
Yeah.
They're online.
What if you're from the North and you can't get to the shop?
Go online.
What if you're from the West?
Go online.
Because I shipped one to Texas, and that's Southwest.
Well, that's pretty cool. You shipped one to Texas, so hopefully you get this really cool Texas image.
Yeah.
Now, see what I would do for the guys in Texas that wear our hats. The way you can win this contest.
Or you could be Tommy. You could be Tommy 1441 from South Carolina.
There you go.
Yeah.
But if I was from Texas, the way I would probably win is I would saddle up one of them Longhorn bulls with a saddle, and I'd ride that bull into the lake, and I'd fish from the bull with the SFT hat on. Now, I'm telling you right now, that is a straight up winner all day long.
Instant winner.
Now, if I was Tom from
Bodacious.
South Carolina, if I was Tom from South Carolina, I'd have my hat on while I was wrestling a gator on Santee Cooper. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these are what I'm looking for.
With a fishing rod in one hand, making a cast. Yeah,
this is what I'm looking for in a contest. I'm just giving some tips out there for the would-be winners.
Be creative.
Wrestling gators.
Yeah.
Riding Texas Longhorn bulls.
Yep.
Those are some tips.
Make it interesting.
Tips.
Yeah. So, but you know, the big thing here is you know, we're trying to get you guys, you know, to get your friends and get, you know, so it spreads a little bit more and on our social media. So we want to make it fun while we do it.
Yes.
All right, great.
Yes.
Connor McLaughlin, what are you doing, man?
Fish are wise to him. Fish actually fear him. What you should do, Connor, is get a mask that looks just like Mike and wear it to the lake, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, then he won't. Then you'll actually catch something. Russell Fuller, how are you doing? So anyway, let's get on to this northern swing, and let's talk. What do you want to call those bass? I don't know. Northern bass. Pretty late. So like I said earlier, we field a boatload of questions in the shop here. and on the telephone from, families going on vacation and people going on vacation, and where they want a vacation is up north on the Finger Lakes.
Well, we also have a ton of tournament guys that are heading north.
Yeah.
The Northern Open's up on Oneida right now.
Yeah.
The tournament world shifts north usually in July every year.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys traveling through stop in the shop. They might not be familiar up there. It might be their, one of their first attempts up there. And, there's some differences.
But it's every day guys are coming in from here on out, and they're just, it's a lot of people.
I'm under attack here, by the way.
Talking about what's attacking you.
Some kind of bug.
And what's really cool about up north, and I think why so many people vacation up there, there's tons of Airbnbs on the water, Airbnbs on all these lakes, these Finger Lakes, and they're very affordable. And the fishing's easy for the most part, for just catching fish, all kinds of species. I mean, it's not just smallmouth and largemouth, but I mean, walleye fishing is fantastic on some of these Finger Lakes. Pike fishing is nuts on some of these lakes, and you got lake trout. You got, it just goes on and on. Panfish, perch. I mean, yellow perch. It's like New York is known for yellow perch. I mean, hell, they have perch dinners on Friday nights that George loves to go to.
I don't miss a perch dinner, bro.
Yeah, we're up there on a Friday night. We're going for perch dinner.
Well, just saying.
So that's the big thing. When it comes to, a lot of people going up there, but then the question comes, I've never been up there. What the hell do I do? I mean, I'm kind of confused. I hear about, this, and I hear about that. So I think what we want to do is jump into, what these lakes are all about. And I think George would agree with me. There's a ton of similarities in all of them. Now, we're not going to talk about one specific lake, because they're all pretty similar. You're going to fish them pretty similar. One might not have as many ledges and humps and stuff like that, or one might be more grassy than the other, but you basically fish them all the same with the same techniques. And there's certain things you do look for on these lakes. And then you bust the specific lake down a little bit further, on your own. But this stuff that we're going to give you is general knowledge, but with successful outcome. And that's where we really want to go. So first thing we want to talk about is the lakes themselves, George, what they're all about.
Well,
and what
there's a couple things, Mike, that whether you fish up north for years or you're new to the North Country. First of all, just about every lake you fish up there is a natural lake.
Yeah, which is
so
different from what we all do.
For pretty much the rest of the U.S., pretty much everywhere you fish is a man-made lake.
Dams.
So and most of our dams that create our lakes, we tend to call them reservoirs because they generate power.
Right.
So there's a current aspect there. So, these natural lakes, they're dug out by glaciers, many moons ago, and they tend to be very deep. Mm-hmm. And they are, there's obviously no per se dam with turbines drawing water out of the lake. A lot of them are interconnected, though, interestingly, by the Erie Barge Canal system.
Yeah.
And there is current that is related to that canal system at various times of the year. For example, if one lake is abnormally high, they'll run that water through that canal system. So there'll be a current factor there. Or
moving boats, fishing, some of the locks on there.
If you're fishing near some of the locks, you have some current aspect there. But for the most part,
right.
These are natural lakes. Current is primarily wind-driven current, mm-hmm. or maybe an incoming from maybe a storm or maybe a stream or
small tributary,
or a little tributary feeding in. So, that's the first big difference that you face when you go up north. The second big difference that you face when you go up north
I hope you say the right thing here.
In most cases, is water clarity.
Clarity. Exactly.
And you tend to be, if you're new to that kind of fishing up there, you tend to be taken, a little bit aback by the clarity. So, if you've ever been on Lake
It's
Erie,
intimidating. The clarity of the water is very intimidating.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on Lake Erie or, Lake Ontario or the Thousand Islands or the north end of Champlain, those are very clear bodies of water. Skinny Atlas, which is a finger lake, very, very clear.
Yeah.
Now, not all of them.
No.
Not all of them. There is also another interesting factor up north is tannic water. So some bodies of water have like a tannic, like a clear brown tint to them, which is not too uncommon in the rest of the country.
Yeah. But most of it, and on most of these finger lakes, you're looking at a clarity that's a lot more clear in what you're fishing.
Well,
usually.
and that clarity is going to affect your fishing also because a lot of these lakes are prone to algae blooms. And algae blooms tend to occur, this time of the year.
Yeah.
August, July and August when it gets hot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nutrients in these waters.
Yeah.
In the form of like nitrogen, not natural nutrients. But you got to have that putting green for a front yard. That nitrogen is going to run into the system.
Yeah.
So you'll get these algae blooms, and that can be a deciding factor of where you fish on that body of water. So pay attention to your clarity. Pay attention to lack of clarity on a normally clear lake. Make your adjustments from that perspective.
Yeah.
Another thing that is interesting up north is the amount of vegetation and the types of vegetation.
It's really uncanny how much vegetation are in some of these lakes, and I think the clarity of the water promotes that very well. And it's good vegetation. You got a lot of lily pads up north, lily pad areas. You got reed grass growing along the banks. You have your different your different aquatic grasses, your milfoils and your hydrillas and your just all kinds of different grasses and stuff up there. But it's all good grass, eelgrass beds but it's incredible the diversity of it.
Well,
but
first of all,
because they're natural lakes, though, George, there is that grass that grows on the bank that's playable.
Well,
it plays big time.
But the most important grass up north is coontail and milfoil. There's vast beds of coontail and milfoil in quite a few of these lakes, and they are key players. Let's face it, we only have when we travel north.
Yeah.
If we don't live up there and we travel up north, we have a short period of time to make some moves, make some decisions, and get on some fish.
There's Tammy Greenman. She lives on Cayuga Lake, and she said so far there's no blooms, which is kind of makes sense because it's been cooler, and the water temperatures are cooler, so you don't have those crazy blooms right away. But they're coming.
They're coming.
You get them every year.
Yep. So that milfoil is a big player for you. So when you get up on whatever lake it is you're going to fish, if you want to catch largemouth, and you'll catch smallmouth as well. But if you want to catch largemouth, run around, do a little recon, find some good milfoil beds. That's a great starting spot there to break these lakes down. Some of them are pretty big. If you get on Lake Champlain, that's a big lake. So you're gonna want to fish. What I recommend on these big lakes is towing to a nearby ramp for an area. The other thing about these big lakes is wind. The wind blows up north. These lakes are big. They're wide open.
What is that?
I don't know, but that's fairly annoying. Hello? Nobody's home. Yeah, I don't get that. That's kind of annoying. what was I talking about? Oh, wind. So, wind is a player. So, and what I want to say about wind is, and this is all kind of getting back to picking an area to fish. Don't go on your bigger lakes like Oneida, the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, and particularly Lake Champlain. Don't go by what I will call the terrestrial weather report. By all means, Google up and research a marine forecast for the area of the lake where you're fishing, because that forecast is almost always different from the land forecast. These lakes are big. They kind of have their own weather pattern to them. So
And George,
you need to know that.
the guys this week at Oneida found that out. I seen a couple guys from the south. They came up looking at that, basic weather pattern forecast, and they learned the hard way when they got out in the water.
Well,
Yeah, they
Oneida
did.
Lake is Oneida Lake's like, and I'm just going to round it off, 25 miles long, 5 miles wide, and it runs east-west.
Yeah, prevailing
And,
winds.
Yeah, the prevailing winds is pretty much not north-south. It's like, northwest, southeast. So that wind's coming slightly across and down that lake. And when you have a wide open body of water like that, or, need I say, Lake Champlain, 135 miles long,
Yeah.
up to 10 miles wide with some islands in it. We don't have to talk about the Great Lakes. Oh, the St. Lawrence River. Hello. So, wind is a major player in where you fish. But
Beauty is,
New York
yeah,
loves fishermen.
yeah.
There is boat ramps
There is. There's
everywhere.
a ton of boat ramps,
Right?
and you can bust out your map, and you can follow them real easy. You can see which way the wind's blowing, and you can fish little corners. One side of the lake might be calmer than the other. You might have to drive around to it. So a lot of them are very easy to drive around. There's roads that are real close to it, and you can jump on one of those ramps and still salvage the day. Now, the other thing you can do, which we've done a lot of, and especially on some of the Finger Lakes, is we've jumped into the canals, and the canal system up there. I know Steve, Skeeter Steve, that works here at the shop. He's a big fan of fishing the Erie Canal system up off of Cayuga, and
Yeah.
he's saved many fishing days. Even just recently, he was up there at one day. The place just blew up horrible, and everybody was like, we're going to stay here and play poker. And he's like, well, hell, I didn't come up here to play poker.
Yeah.
He drove over to the canal and started smoking them up on the canal, and had a great day and salvaged a day of fishing. So there's a lot of things you can do.
And that's an interesting thing about these bodies of water, no matter how big and intimidating they are. Unless it's Oneida, unless it's Ontario or Erie and you have the wrong wind direction,
Yeah.
then I don't care.
Yeah, you have to go too far to get.
But, no matter how bad it is, you can always fish somewhere. Again, we're traveling north. We had some fishermen stopping in the shop last week on their way to Oneida that had already driven like 12 hours just to get here.
Yeah.
And they still had another 4.5, 5 to go to get to the lake. So, you make a commitment of that nature, or, you're taking your family up there, or you're going up to fish a club tournament.
You want to fish.
Usually you're talking about 3, 4, 5 days max. The beauty of it is you don't have to sit on the bench.
You don't.
Not
up there.
Mike and I we famously fished in a hurricane one time up there.
Yeah, we did.
And you know what? We launched in a river that wasn't even wide enough to get ugly.
Yeah.
And other than
40-mile-an-hour winds and
other
rain
than about
sideways
6 inches of rain, we had a ball.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Caught fish.
You know what's interesting? So we're getting further and further away from these maps. And I look behind your counter here, and you have all these maps, and a lot of them are to the lakes we're talking about.
Yes.
And, Mike, you brought up a great point. George, you went off of it too, is look for different ramps at different parts of the lake. But the other really good thing is if you're not in a tournament, think about this. So if you're in a tournament, you have to go to Oneida. That's where you have to go.
Yeah.
Champlain,
Yeah.
whatever. But for the average person who just wants to go up north
It's
and
going
catch
fishing.
a lot of fish and have a great time, think about the lakes that are not being talked about all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lakes up there
Millions
that are
of
the
them.
perfect size that even if it does get windy, you're going to be fine. And actually, the fish get less pressure anyway. So think about that.
You can always fish, Nick. And speaking of paper maps, I mean, we have the greatest electronic mapping. I mean, can you imagine if Christopher Columbus had a Helix 10? I mean, this whole game would be going down different. I mean, the Santa Maria would be right up in the Susquehanna. You know what I'm saying? But it's just awesome. But,
What the hell's the matter with him, man? Where's he come up with this shit?
what are you talking about?
Good
Can you
stuff.
imagine if Christopher Columbus had a Helix 10
Well, he
with Lake Master?
I don't know. It still looks flat on the screen.
He'd be
So
like-
maybe like it could still fall off the edge of the.
Wheel that Santa Maria over to the east here a little bit. There's a shoal coming up. I want to get up on a Marne River. But anyways, I digress. I like to make an argument for the old school paper map. Fishing hotspots, Gemco. Okay, Gemco is a regional map company for us. They're North Carolina, Maryland, Delaware, Delmarva. Okay, that fishing hotspots covers a huge part of the country, and I like to make an argument for that when it comes to going to like Oneida or Champlain. And what I like to do when I go up there to fish, because I'm not going up there on family vacation. The family's not even invited, as a matter of fact. I'm going up there to fish. I like to put that map out in our lodging, and I like to come back at the end of the day and make some notes on it about interesting things that I learned.
Well, not only that, George, but everybody does have the electronic, the mapping and stuff on their thing. They have to scroll through all that stuff. Look at this. And this is where the legitimacy for me comes in. That's the whole entire lake. So you can very quickly see if it's windy, what side of the lake you can go to, where the ramps are very quickly.
That's big.
All this stuff just without having to go out to your boat and scroll through everything.
Before you move off that topic,
Yeah.
George, while Mike holds that up for us, can you just explain to viewers that don't know what you're talking about, the wind and where you would go on that lake to get away?
So, when you get that marine forecast and it says, northeast,
Yeah.
25-mile-an-hour winds.
Well, the problem with this lake is it runs east and west, where
Right.
most lakes run north and south this way. This one runs east and west. So if it's coming from here up at this end, can you kind of point to that a little bit, George?
Yeah.
I'll hold it up and you can.
Yeah, so, if your wind's coming this direction right here, okay, and you can literally do this with your paper map, you can see you don't want to be over in here. You don't want to be over in here. You don't want to be down in here. That's a lot of open water. They call that the fetch. Those waves will build radically coming down through here. So you want to be up in this end. You want to be on this shore, and you can kind of see, hey, if I fish up in here, I'm good. If I fish up here in the river, I'm good. Man, that's an extreme condition, northeast of 25 knots. I mean,
Well,
I can promise you this much: you're
you can
going to
fish
have
that whole
most.
north side too.
You're going to have
pretty good.
most of your boat ramps by yourself.
And a lot of that
Okay.
north side, you can kind of get in some of those protected
Yeah,
areas.
if your wind's coming like this, okay, and you can look for your boat ramps. Where you have your boat ramps, like right here's a nice little boat ramp tucked away. You're going to be able to put your boat in there. You're going to be able to fish all this, particularly up in here. So, the paper map is very, very useful for dealing with wind.
Yep.
It's also very useful for making a few key little notes. Those of you who are young, you might not think it's important to make a few notes, but I assure you,
when you get a little older,
you know,
down the road,
you're going to try to remember something interesting
You're gonna
on
be
a shoal.
praying to God you had that thing tucked away
And
somewhere.
the waypoint is not going to explain it to you. It's going to take you there,
Yeah.
but it's not going to explain it to you. So, you know,
we have great little notes on some of our maps. Like, the one that I like the best was we were fishing this one lake and it was kind of certain situation that we kind of picked up on late in the weekend and didn't figure it out. We made notes on that certain situation and looked at that map and oh yeah, remember when it got like this and this happened, and then we whacked them on that. We got to remember that, and that's been paying off for us for years on that lake, on that body of water. Certain temperatures, you might want to wait certain temperatures and areas you fish with temperatures, areas you fish with wind,
Yeah.
and
it's
all
I
good.
literally have a file in my my botel. I literally have a file of 30 or 40 maps of lakes I've fished all over the country, rivers I've fished all over the country with notes on them, because the farther you travel, the less you get back to that area. And those notes need to be made when they're fresh in your mind. I fished the St. Lawrence River at least once a year, if not twice a year. And when I get home from those trips, if I discovered something that was really key, I'll make a note on there. And yes, I have my waypoints. And of course,
yeah, that's important too. That's a whole nother
but that little
side
note,
of thing.
I actually, years ago, I was fishing what is now called a Toyota Series event on Champlain. And I was practicing for 3 or 4 days. And I had my map that had years of data written on it, tucked underneath the windshield of my boat. And it would never blow out of there. Well, this particular day, for some reason, it blew out of there. It might have been that I was doing 85 miles an hour down the highway after a long day of practice. I don't know. But when I got back to my lodging and was cleaning up my boat, about an hour later, I realized that map was gone. I went out and drove that highway back and forth from exit to exit for an hour and lost.
You've never found it?
No, it's gone. If anybody lives up there from Plattsburgh to Marine Village area on the highway there, and you found an amazing detailed map with all kinds of notes on it several years ago, please return it.
Christmas came early for somebody.
But the point is, I think the map is fallen out of grace. I can tell by our sales on maps. We still sell a fair amount of the maps, but it's way, way down from where it used to be. And, interestingly, Fishing Hotspots was just sold again.
Yeah.
And,
it's bouncing around now because guys are getting away from them, and it's a mistake.
They're only so viable with all this electronics.
It's a huge mistake. I just think if you're going to a new body of water and you really want to break it down and look at it, a map, by looking at it all at one time, and then making your notes and then getting onto your unit and then uploading that information into your unit. But even still, you got to scroll through it all. It's a pain in the neck, man. You can't look at it right. This thing, lay it out, man. Talk to your buddies. You're all talking around. Hey, this is what it's so helpful. It's so relevant, the maps, especially for these lakes up there, shoals and looking to shoals and all that kind of stuff. Very, 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 very important.
Mike, so in the essence of time, because obviously we can talk for hours on this topic, but in the essence of time, those are some key points. Another key point is dealing with wind, and we're not going to go into the A's and B's and C's and D's of this.
No,
your boat maintenance,
super careful up
there.
Make
sure you take the time to tighten your motor bolts, your jack plate bolts, your through hull bolts. I can't even begin to tell you how many outboards I've seen strapped on back decks. It gets big and ugly.
Well,
and I don't even want to go into rigging or running.
No, you don't. You don't want to go there. But here's the thing, George.
We're getting long on our show here.
Here's
we
the thing,
talked
George.
about half the stuff we want.
But here's the thing. just be careful up there. Know that these lakes are natural lakes, so they have shallow spots in them. Those waves get big. Just be careful running up there. If you're not comfortable running big water, don't do it. Just stay in the creeks and the arms and stuff like we explained, and you'll be just fine. Now,
So, some of the nature of these lakes up here that you need to know about, typically if you're from the Mid-Atlantic region, your spawn season kicks on pretty hot and heavy the end of April, the month of May, and maybe a little bit of spawn action in the early parts of June. Well, when you go up into the North Country of, upstate New York, for example, when your spawn ends is when their spawn begins. Their spawn season is primarily June.
Yeah.
The farther north you go, obviously, the later. And, on the St. Lawrence River, it's not uncommon to find spawning fish in the middle of July.
They're catching spawning fish up there right now.
So,
no doubt.
Get your calendar right. Because when it's spawn season up north, because the water's so clear, you're going to do a lot of sight fishing. You're going to do a lot of shallow water fishing. You're going to rely on suspending jerk baits, and you're going to rely on shallow water techniques like a tube and a drop shot. If you're going up a little later in the season, know this. The beginning of the post-spawn season up there is some of the very best topwater fishing you'll encounter in your life. When these fish come off the spawn and they get into that post-spawn kind of refeeding period, the topwater fishing can be spectacular. To be fair to the conversation, Nick, we do tend to gravitate towards the smallmouth talk because kind of like pretty special place up there for smallmouth.
Oh, the freaking largemouth fishing is, I'm telling you, largemouth fishing. Listen, you're not going to catch a 6.5, 7 pounder up there as quick, but the 3 to 5 pound class is very strong up there, and there is some great largemouth fishing to be had, and a lot of that is fun largemouth fishing where you're frogging, where you're flipping jigs and reed banks and fishing weeds that are like flooded way back in there, and the fish are spawning way back in these things. And you take your boat and the toolies are up over your head. Are they tall toolies or what are they, cattails?
Both. Same.
Same.
So
you got these big tall toolies and you're taking your boat like you're in Florida and you're going back in through there and you're flipping and you're frogging and you're pitching and you're catching 3 to 5 pound largemouth. It's like, it's crazy.
You know what they say, Nick? It don't suck.
It doesn't.
No, and it doesn't. And there's certain lakes up there that if you're targeting largemouth, you're just not going to win.
No, right.
But there's lakes up there that if you don't target the largemouth, you're making a grave mistake.
Yeah.
And you really have to play that.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're fishing a one-day club tournament, you can make a pretty serious argument that you better be largemouth fishing. And
True.
I think it's going to be interesting to find out, like day one of this Northern Open on Oneida.
Lunker was the lunker of the tournament was a giant largemouth.
Yeah,
up there.
I think it's going to be real interesting to find out that these guys that have, the first 3 guys are all basically 20 pounds. I think it's going to be real interesting to find out that there's some big largemouth in the mix. Now, traditionally on multi-day tournaments, it doesn't carry, but if you and your buddies are up there for a club tournament or you're up there for a little couple extended day fishing vacation. As much as we love going up north to catch giant smallmouth, and I see William Clute on here, and my man knows about catching giant smallmouth. I'll bet you he ventures around for some of that largemouth fishing because it's literally phenomenal.
Yeah.
The frog bite.
Yeah.
Post spawn. Take lots of frogs with you.
Yeah. So, and so many times again in the shop here, and this is stuff that we get to talk to these people about, because then they come back after their trip and they explain, oh man, and show pictures, and it's all, cool. You get that feedback from, oh my gosh, that frog thing you were talking about. Oh, unbelievable. We went through all these frogs. It was great. It was unbelievable. So you see a lot of that stuff. and it's great practice for people who don't get a chance to do that kind of fishing a lot. It's different for people who don't get to do that type of fishing a lot. It's easy, so northern fishing largemouth is not talked about as much because it's you're going for big smallies.
And that's a great point, Mike, because if you don't have a lot of time, let's say you just have a long weekend or a weekend, it's much easier to target the largemouth because we all know what smallies like to do.
Yeah.
They move from one day to the next, 1 hour to the next.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. They're always roaming. They're always moving. Those largemouth get in those bays and they get in those.
They do.
And they just stay there.
They're
stay
very
there.
reliable.
Very reliable.
If I was gonna kind of wrap it up in a put a bow on it, as far as going up north largemouth fishing, we talked about touring the lake and finding that good milfoil and coontail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we talked about pads, but technique wise, from post spawn through early fall, be well equipped in your frog department, be well equipped with your buzz bait, and the flipping game is spectacular. Typically you're going to fish a little bit of a heavier weight.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to find yourself, your lightweight flipping rig is going to be like 3/8, and you're going to go up to a half, a 3/4 in a lot of instances in that nice thick milfoil and coontail.
It's a little deeper.
You are flipping a little deeper, so, and you're going to be flipping a lot of creature style bait. You're going to be flipping, the sweet beaver style bait. You're going to be flipping the crawl style bait. The other thing that you're going to be flipping up north for largemouth, that you better be flipping up north for largemouth, is the big jig. The jig weights up north, your lightweight jigs are a 1/2 ounce.
Yep.
And then you're going to go to a 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
And, your colors are pretty typical, green pumpkin, black and blue, but don't ever underestimate the power of solid black up north.
Yeah.
I
love that up
one
there.
One of the longest term greatest regional pros that I know is the dean of bass fishing,
Pete Glusick.
Pete Glusick. He is one of the best that ever played the game. And he told me many times and saved my butt one time on a tournament on Champlain. Don't forget about a 1/2 to 3/4 ounce black on black jig. And I don't know what it is about that clear water and that black jig, but if that bite gets a little stingy, you get in that depth range that you found those fish. And a lot of times, to Mike's point, you're flipping a little deeper. You might be flipping 6 to 8 foot of water,
which is it's a little different, and you have to get used to that. But this is also where you talk about the Senko. The Senko is legendary on all these northern lakes. They absolutely love the Senko up there. You can't get enough Senkos. You'll never go up there without Senkos, and you need the black Senko,
and
you need the black and blue Senko,
and you'll fish a bigger Senko. You go up to a lot of these lakes. I know, like, for example, when I go to Lake Champlain, I probably fish the 6-inch Senko more than I do anywhere else in the whole country. In those shallow pencil reeds and those shallow milfoil fields. And you'll also fish your Senko with a little bit of a heavier weight than you typically fish it anywhere else. Some of that has to do with wind. Some of that has to do with fall rate. William Klutz on here talking about mats up north that are in 10 foot of water. Late season mats can be deep up there. So, that largemouth game,
George, real quick,
those are some key things.
With that flipping and pitching for the largemouth up there, we got the clear water.
Mm-hmm.
Are you using braid or are you using fluoro?
That is a very good question, and it's yes.
Yeah, both.
So
I don't think I
typically the braid, Mike.
Yeah,
you're going to fish a fluoro leader.
Yeah.
And the fluoro, and it's 20 fluoro and 50 to 65 braid. These fish are not line shy, but you will run a leader on that braid.
I was watching, but at the same time though, I was watching Greg Hackney win a tournament where he was 65 braid straight to the jig. On that was Cayuga Lake, crystal clear water in that grass. You know, when you're in grass, Nick, it's different than
Very true.
it's different than when you're open water. You know, when you're trying to drag open water and do that kind of stuff, then the braid, the leader is important. But
Very, very true.
but there's also, like, if that grass is more scattered, you know, not quite as thick as what those, like Hackney was fishing, you know, late summer up there, August, super thick grass.
Yeah, and he was offshore too. I
Yeah.
mean, he was fishing a combination of a super shallow pattern.
And I think he was all 3/4 jig that.
Oh yeah, he was 3/4 hack attack all
Yeah.
day long.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's talk about colors up there. Just a limited supply of colors that would be, you know,
on the largemouth side.
well, no, I'm talking, you know, just, you know, because, you know, for instance,
Because there's a lot of colors that you're going to smallmouth fish.
No,
with
I
that you're
know that,
probably
but
not gonna largemouth fish with.
yeah, but, you know, typically in Senkos and jigs, you know, you're going to fish the black and blue,
Green pumpkin.
and green pumpkin, and you don't need any more.
You really don't.
You don't.
You
And
really
and
don't.
I, you know, keeping this simple, like I wanted to, because you can go into depth on all this stuff, but keeping it simple.
Yeah, well,
And
I mean,
you know,
unless you want to have your boat bogged down to the point with
no,
with
you don't
colors.
need it up there, and that's what I'm saying. You get up there to some of those, yeah, and somebody's going to say, "Well, man, I killed him one day on a such and such." Well, yeah, you're gonna do that, but typically speaking, if you go up there with Senkos in black and blue, which is the 021 and the 020, which is black, and then the 297, which is green pumpkin. Now you can mix that up with
Look
9.
at you with the fancy numbers.
Yeah, you can go to 912, which is the green pumpkin and watermelon.
What do we call that
black.
one?
Huh?
What do we call that color?
Green pumpkin and watermelon.
The boss's bait.
Oh, the boss's bait, right? Right. That was
Gary kept that to himself for a
yeah,
while.
that was his bait he didn't mess around with, but
Yeah.
that's a great bait. So if you do that, you're going to be fine up there. If you take a black and blue jig up there,
Very
a straight
true.
black jig up there, and a green pumpkin jig up there, and then matching trailers, whatever trailers you like, you know, you have to mess around with that in those matching colors, you're going to be fine.
Now, I've got an interesting sidebar to that, and it comes in the form of the swim jig. Now, for those of you who have not had a lot of success with the swim jig, when you go up north, you can experience the greatest swim jig fishing of all time. I'm talking about so much fun. You just won't even come off the lake at the end of the day. The swim jig is very powerful up north. And, you know, to Mike's color description, the green pumpkin and the black and blue swim jig plays super strong, but don't sleep on white. And as far as the swim jig arena goes, pack a few extras because Northern Pike
They love it.
also
Well,
enjoy a nice swim
hey,
jig.
why? Hey, since you went there, take extra tackle, period, because there's so many freaking pike up there. You're going to get bit off a lot, even on the Senkos, on the jigs, on all that stuff. And guys go up there and, well, I'm going to go up there with a pack of black and blue Senkos or black Senkos. I'm good.
Negative.
Negative.
Ghost Rider, because you're going to catch way more fish
Right.
than you normally catch.
Load up on that stuff.
You're driving a long ways up north. You're spending a lot of money on gas. You're spending a lot of money on lodging. Do not skimp on Senkos. Do not skimp on swim jigs or swim jig trailers.
Yeah.
I've always found up north, I like to bulk that swim jig trailer up a little more. And here we are wanting to talk about smallmouth and just locked in on this largemouth fishing. And the reason for that is
It's so good up there.
It is so
and
good.
it's so underestimated
And I hope you're
underlooked.
taking notes, because
Nobody's doing this.
all this stuff we talked about so far, and now add the swim jig to that list.
Yeah.
Now, I do back down a little bit, fellas, on the swim jig. I usually, for some reason, I'll drop it back to a 15 fluoro. Because you're fishing a little more open water, a sparser grass, if you will. And I just seem to get a lot more bites on that 15 fluoro. And, it's either going to be a white on white, a green pumpkin on green pumpkin, or a black and blue on black and blue. So that's where you need to, that's another, what you need to do on the largemouth.
Now to switch over to smallies.
Now you're talking.
And really the smallmouth fishing in the great state of New York, upper New York,
It's redonkulous.
is
Stupid.
it's just insane. And they talk about Maine, they talk about all up and through there how great that is, and it is great fishing. But there's New York, because I guess because of where it's at and the weather they grow, and the bait, the goby, really the gobies, the size of the smallmouth you're going to catch in New York State is just second to none anywhere. They're huge fish.
Well, those people out in the Midwest region
Well, I'm talking about
might be pissing off some.
no, they got some
Minnesotians and some Michiganders.
they got some screwy stuff going on
and
over
some
there too.
Wisconsiners.
Yeah, they got some screwy stuff going on over
Saginaw
there
Bay
with
folks
some
might argue
big
with you a little
giant
bit.
uglies. But I'm telling you, literally, in the Finger Lakes, in the North Country fishing, in the Northeast, it's very, very hard to beat the smallmouth fishing anywhere. So you got that, you got that, and you're going to go
St.
up
Lawrence
there,
River.
and you're going to go up there, and you're going to fish that the St. Lawrence River, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, famous for 6+ pound smallmouth.
And Mike, it's interesting. You're talking about these linebacker size, smallies.
Yeah,
And one of the reasons why they're getting that big is because of something you mentioned,
the goby.
the
Yeah,
goby.
Mhm.
And it's funny, you have the map of Oneida.
Yeah.
They're at Oneida,
yeah,
and they're saying that lake has really changed
it has.
because of the
Gobies are in
goby,
there.
and you're seeing a lot of bigger bass, but it also changed that lake,
Well, that lake, when me and George started fishing, if you caught a 4-pound smallmouth, it was like, holy crap, you caught a 4-pound smallmouth, because back then you caught a lot of 3 to 3.5 pound smallmouth. That was considered a big bag, was 16 to 17 pounds was your big smallmouth bag back in those days. That's 90s, before they had these gobies. Now all of a sudden it's 20 pounds. It's getting to be 20+ pounds in smallmouth. They're getting bigger, they're getting thicker, they're getting fatter, they're catching 4-pounders all the time. And you can see those bags at 20 pounds. It's going to be interesting, like George said, to see what they actually caught in this Oneida tournament, whether those first couple 20-pound bags were largemouth or smallmouth, or a mix of what it was. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was smallmouth.
Right now, they're on about a 35 to 36 pound pace for the top 10 cut.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking stout. So,
well, we'll see. I mean,
we're going to watch that hard tomorrow.
You might see guys come in again with 20-pound bags. If it's smallmouth, it wouldn't surprise me. Largemouth, it would surprise me if they came in with 2 back-to-back 20-pound bags. But anyway, so the smallmouth fishing is really, what everybody's excited about up there. And when people come into our store and they are trying to get ready and they want to go up, there's a few things we have to talk about. And number one thing that we talk about, and a lot of guys are like, I don't know anything about, is drop shotting. It's a technique that is more popular now than it's ever been. But it's still very, very not so popular with a lot of people. So a lot of people don't know and haven't fished it, believe it or not. There's a lot of people that just haven't fished it. But this is a place where you're going to go and you're going to drop shot, and you're going to drop shot a lot, and you're going to spend a lot of your time doing this. So it's real simple. Again, you're going to you keep it simple with the colors. There's a few colors you got to get. There's a few things you got to do, but you're going to keep it simple. You're going to use a certain weight. That's but up there drop shotting, you're going to use a 1/2 ounce weight. Sometimes you may go to a 3/4 ounce weight. We have a guy who sells us all our garment stuff. They drift that up around Messina up there by Will Clute. They drift those seams up, those current seams, with 1 ounce weights, dragging the bottom in 30 feet of water. So there's a bunch of different things you can do to catch these fish, but you can also keep it very simple. 3/8 and 1/2 ounce drop shot weights, number 1, 1-0, drop shot hook, good split shot, drop shot style hook. And then a few baits, if you want to talk about some of those baits, George.
Oh, there's just so many of them. I mean,
if you're just going up there with a handful of them,
if your bait, is basically a worm styled shape bait, and I don't really have any here, but I do have like I do have the new Spro Smalley CJ Smasher, so from that small of a size, basically a little worm style bait,
Yeah, the Berkeley Maxent flatworm, which is famous up there.
Anything that looks like that.
Yeah.
If you have a green pumpkin, if you have a black and some sort of a clearer shad looking color, like a green pumpkin shad color on a real sunny day, you're fine.
Yeah.
Or else you can just get totally bogged down on drop shot baits. There's just so many. I mean, here in the store, we carry like 30 different specific smallmouth drop shot baits.
Yeah. So if
every color you can imagine.
Yeah. If you get a few of them, and the brownback flatworm, which is a very famous one up there, the black is very good for smallies up there. A lot of guys are throwing that leech style bait or a black flatworm or a black drop shot worm, green pumpkin and watermelon. You don't need to go crazy. That's it. Green pumpkin, watermelon, a brownback, which is basically brown with a white belly and, a goby color. That's all you need. You don't need to go crazy with it. And that's your drop shot and setup. And then but the other thing you got to worry about, Nick, and on all these northern lakes is a thing called a zebra mussel. Great thing that happened to a lot of those bodies of water was a zebra mussel for making the clarity so good and really getting those fish to, clean. It got everything to grow very nicely. But you got to deal with the zebra mussels as they're like little razor blades. They're like little knife fighters down there with switchblades and stuff,
Tear your stuff up.
So, there again, your drop shot weights, you will go through a ton of drop shot weights up there. That's
you read my mind, Mike, because I was just holding a pack of these here. You'll see them.
Yeah. Put them up there, Nick. That's a bulk pack. That's a bulk pack of drop shot weights. And why is the reason for that, Nick?
Well, I learned this the hard way last year, and I went up there and I didn't have quite enough weights. I didn't realize how many you go through, and you're going to need it. Just like you said.
And then go try to find them once you're up there. You can't find them.
Well, you can't, because once you're in a tournament up there, there's very few places to get tackle, and there's nothing like Susquehanna fishing tackle.
No.
So it's like you and George said, with the Senkos and everything, make sure you have enough terminal tackle.
Yeah.
Because you're going to go through it, and you can't help it.
Tom Mills brought that up, and because he had the same kind of experience up there. You get up there, and and the other problem with these weights that a lot of guys don't realize is the ones that you pinch your line in, which is what most of them are. They can get thrown off real easy when you're battling one of these big 5-pound smallmouth. I mean, these fish fight like nothing you've ever caught before. These are, our friend William Clute from up there, his guide service. It's Mohawk Charters up there. It's just absolutely insane when people come off his boat. They're like, I never realized that these fish are that damn strong. They are superhuman up there, and they fight like crazy. So you're going to lose weights. They're going to pull. They're going to jump. They're going to dart. They're going to do this, and weights are going to be lost. And there's no place to get stuff up there. They have them up there. There's nice tackle shops up there, but they sell out. People, especially when it's busy season, they'll sell out, and it's just, there's no way of getting them in there all the time. So make sure you have enough of it. It's very, very important. And,
I'm back, boys.
Same with hooks. The number 1s and 1.0s, and I know guys that go all the way down to 4s and that kind of stuff on their drop shot stuff. But if you went with a number 1 and a number 1.0, that's going to cover you. You're going to be fine. Make sure you have a 25 pack of them along with you, because you're going to go through them. The pike are going to bite you off again in a drop shot situation. Believe it or not, there's a million pike at 20 feet in all these bodies of water. They love it down there, especially in July and August, and they will just clip your stuff off left and right. So make sure you have enough weights for that.
Yeah, so working from the outside in, we started off with the drop shot. We talked about how vitally important your drop shot game has got to be on point. Okay, so we're talking about the baits of the drop shot. We're talking about the mechanics of the drop shot. So there are some like outlier baits for certain circumstances. Sometimes, believe it or not, the bite gets very specific. You know, the flatworm can carry you most of the time.
Mhm.
The specialty baits like the Spro, CJ Smasher, the X Zone, Slammer, which is legendary.
Yep.
Of course, we talked
And then,
about
of course, the flatworm.
talked about the flatworm and dozens of others. But there are some outliers to this deep aspect here. And one of them is when you downsize. You know, we talked about the CJ Smalley Smasher from Spro and how small it is. You know, it's literally a very tiny, like 3.5-inch bait. And I'm going to put it up to another tiny bait. And when the bite gets kind of tough, which it does, these giant fish will feed on very small forage. They'll feed on small perch fry. They'll feed on small gobies. And baits like this CJ Smasher, which is yet to be famous, but I feel it probably will be. And this bait right here, which is a Hasdong Shad from Megabass, you know, this is where you need to require a smaller hook. You need to drop back down to a 2 or a 4 drop shot hook. And the other aspect of this drop shot game, before, and I don't want to get all,
You know what it's like, George? It's like sometimes you're eating chips and stuff, the big old chips, and it's like really good, you know, but you don't want to deal with a big chip, you know. So you go to Caps hot fries, you know, little small little Caps hot fries, popping them in there. You know what I'm saying? Some days it's just no.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds good. Sounds good.
It's a good
Um,
generalization.
the other thing that we were getting at
Caps hot fries.
on these little baits and these little hooks, the other thing we're getting about on this drop shotting is the importance of the tackle. And, you know, you're going to want to have your spinning rod loaded up with a lighter braid, you know, let's just say a 10-pound braid, maybe up to a 15-pound braid. And then you're going to run a big, long leader. Okay. And we're not going to get all bogged down on this drop shot thing because we've done drop shot shows.
Yeah.
And didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
And I got news for you. We're going to run out of time tonight too. So
yeah,
working from the outside in on these smallies, the next two things that we're going to touch on here are critical. First, the Carolina rig. Do not underestimate the Carolina rig. And I'm not talking about like some kind of finesse Carolina rig. I'm talking about, you know, 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon, 3/4 to 1 ounce weight, a 15 fluorocarbon leader, and some baits you might not be thinking about.
there's only one you need, really.
Well, there's two.
There's only one I need.
The 6-inch Zoom Lizard,
That's not bad.
which you don't go north without that bait.
It's not bad.
Okay.
What's the killer?
And yeah,
Here we go.
If they get off that lizard,
Son, get the net.
another Zoom product. And I love the fact that we're going up north and we're talking about a company based out of Georgia dominating the market.
Killing them on the
Ultra
Chigger.
Vibe Speed Crawl.
on the Ultra Vibe speed crawl. That thing is legendary up there. And our boy Greg DePalma has put that on the map up on that freaking place, man. He's caught some giant fish on that thing.
Fantastic. And then the third thing that I would highly recommend you bring on your northern excursion for giant rod destroying, rod breaking smallmouth is a football jig. And I would highly recommend you drag a 1/2 to 3/4 ounce football jig. And it can be a finesse football jig or a full size up north.
So you can see once again, Nick, that it's not a bunch of different, although you can go up there with a million different things. You don't need a bunch of different things. So guys are just getting into going up there. They can do it with, you know, Yeah, it's several different techniques, but you can do it with that up there. Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem that people have. 20 foot of water. Seems like a lot. Seems deep. And for most of us, when we think about 20 foot of water, it's like infinitely depth of water that is just like the abyss. But think about, let's put this in context, Nick. The length of your boat is what? 21 feet?
Yep.
All right. It's what, 3 or 4 steps from one end to the other when you're taking long strides?
That's it.
That's 21 feet of water. George and I have a 21-foot boat. I can almost hit him with a fishing rod when I'm casting.
I can.
So if you stand it up on end and you look at that, it's not that deep. It's not 20 foot of water is really not that deep. It's a persona in your head. It's something that you think about that it's like, oh my God, I'm in 20 foot of water. It's the abyss. It's really not that deep. You have to get in your mind that 20 foot deep is like up here where we're at in this area is a 10 foot of water. It's not that deep. And there's a lot of times when you go north, especially later in July and into August, where you can't even catch fish in 20 foot of water that well. You got to go out to 30 or 35. Why do we go to New York for smallmouth, George?
Because there's so many of them and they're huge.
And they're huge.
Huge.
And a lot of times these big 5 and 6 pound trophy fish, which we're targeting, are out deeper than that 20 foot of water that we can kind of almost fish, but we're still like whacked out on. You have to go to 30. You have to go to 35. You have to go to 40. George called me up one time. He was fishing up on Lake Erie up in Buffalo. Never fished there before. Him and my dad were fishing this giant tournament. And he called, or I called him because I had a question on something tackle related business wise. And
Did you want to know who made the baby 1- or something like that, right?
yeah.
I told you Bill Lewis did.
Yeah, you did. And that's right. That's right. And he was like, man, I said, well, bro, how you guys doing, man? You catching them? He said, man, we're catching the hell out of fish, but 3 pounds, 3.5 is like our jam right now. And I'm like, well, that ain't gonna do you nothing up there. I mean, 3.5 pounders, they're fun as hell. And you guys, it
was fun.
And they were having fun. They were catching 60, 80 fish a day up there. And I said, well, there's only one thing you can do. And he says, what? I said, you need to go deeper. You need to go deeper. I said, and I think you were fishing 25 feet.
We were fishing 20 to
25.
20 to almost 30 feet of water.
Yeah.
And, we went out and started graphing, and we found a nice little carved out, nice little drop off at like 33 to 35.
Yeah.
It just kind of dropped off. And I mean, it was just loaded
So,
with fish.
you know what I mean? So you move out and those bigger fish or whatever reason, they're going deeper. They're going deeper. They're going deeper. George and I went up we go up every year to the Thousand Islands with our Mega Bass crew. And we have a ball with those guys. It's really, really cool fishing. But one year we were up there and it was like, are you kidding me? There wasn't anything living above 25 feet. Nothing. I mean, we couldn't even catch a perch below 25 feet. It was unbelievable. But we were screwing around and we got in this one spot. And it was one area. And
you could see them on a hummingbird.
you could see them it was a 360. You could
Wads
see
of
them.
them.
We were like, well, let's see how deep we can catch one of these fish. And it was 76 feet at the deepest point, but we caught a fish at 74 feet. And that's no shit. We caught that thing. We brought it up. It was just a little, they weren't big fish by no means, but because this the way the things were going. But some of the fish were nice. But we caught a ton of fish in that 2.5 to 3 pound range right off this spot. And the deepest one we caught was 74 feet, and the shallowest one we caught was 55 feet.
And you had to unhook them super fast
and shove them in the water.
Torpedo them down the water, and you'd see them get down there,
Yeah.
kick a few times, and then go down.
So
You couldn't be taking pictures and
ladies and
screwing
gentlemen,
around.
look at your boat. Look what 18 foot is. Look what 20 foot is. It's not that far. Just add 10 or 15 feet. It's not even that deep. I mean, it's really not.
I got news for you boys.
Yeah. You have to get over it.
They ain't all that deep.
No, they aren't. But here, before you go there, George,
I got some
one
news
thing
for you.
Yeah, one thing though. And this is something that George just said. You know, when you catch those fish and you're bringing them up out of that deep water, there's a lot of care about you have to take on these fish. Now, the fish in New York are old. 5-pounder,
Teenager.
6-pounder. They're older fish. So it took a long time for them to get there, and we want to protect those fish. So you have to learn how to fizz fish. You get fizzing needles, and you need to learn how to fizz fish, because guess what we all want to do when we catch a 6-pounder? We want to take a picture of it.
Well,
and as soon as you hold that fish up,
you can't delay
for a little period of time. That fish is already up. You know, it's already, you fought it for a long time, and then you held it up. That fish is already bloated up. You need to fizz that fish. So there's great videos on YouTube. What's that woman's name?
Barb Elliott.
Barb Elliott. Fantastic, easy video, simple technique to do this.
A lot of
those fish are very docile and they're easy to
a lot of your fish, if you catch them and get them right back in the water, you do not need to fizz them. But if you keep them for any length of time for a picture, you know,
I noticed when you just fight them for a long time.
You know, if you want to take a picture of these big fish, you need to have your camera, your phone accessible and ready to go. You can't be like holding
can't be dinking around with these things, man,
while your buddy's looking for his phone
and the scale. You know, everybody wants to scale them.
You know, do the resource a favor.
Yeah.
Don't even, just catch them and release them quickly.
We love going up there to catch all these big fish. We have to protect them. It's something you have to do. Use the gripper style weigh scales. Do not puncture. Gripper style. Weigh the fish. Take a nice picture. Fizz your fish and put them back in the water. It's gonna be fine.
And it's also a great time. You know, it's a bad time when this happens. Is don't, you know, unless you're in a tournament, you have to keep your limit.
Yeah.
But if you're just out there for a fun day of fishing and you keep a limit so you can take pictures of all these fish at the end of the day, this is not the time to be doing that.
Yeah, and if you're
not
just,
in July,
you know,
August.
if you're just catching and releasing these fish, you know, it's very important to stress. You're probably not going to need to fizz them. If you're going to put them in the live well and they're deep fish, 30, 35 foot or deeper, you're going to have to fizz them. If you're screwing around, weighing them and picture taking them and, you know, whatever else you're doing, you're probably going to have to fizz them. If you don't want to get in that scenario and you want to protect a resource, get them caught and get them released, and you'll see them.
They fight like hell, man.
If you torpedo that fish down, you'll see him get down there a little bit.
He's fighting like hell.
And then he'll kick, and he gone.
Yeah. He has to get down so far, and then all of a sudden it kind of bounces out enough.
Which is why you want to torpedo him a little bit.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen,
you chase him
then
down.
you get that fish back out of the water,
And
put them
fizz
in your live well.
Yeah.
Put them in your live well.
Get yourself ready.
Let your live well run for a little bit. Put a little rejuvenate in there. Let that fish float around for a few minutes, and then fizz them, and then let them sit in your live well for a few minutes, and then release them.
It's amazing.
But don't go into any of this without being prepared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't go into any of this without being prepared. But
now you
my favorite way to catch these big old bronze backs does not require fizzing or deep water. As a matter of fact, your boat might hit the bottom. I had a phenomenal day on Lake Erie with Bernie Schultz in the last Elite Series event where they allowed co-anglers. And we hit about 10 rocks with the bottom of Bernie's Ranger. That's how shallow we were fishing. And we freaking smoked them. My 3 fish weighed over 15 pounds. My 3 fish limit weighed over 15 pounds. So, you know, the shallow side of the smallmouth game, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run it for you real quick. Big flats, scattered rock, or shoals coming up out of deeper water.
Man, there's so many shoals.
Well, yeah, they're everywhere.
There's so many shoals up there.
You know, they sell more lower units in the state of New York than they do in the rest of the country combined. You know, and there's a reason for that.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I want you guys and gals to follow the following recipe for phenomenal shallow water smallmouth beatdowns. Topwater fishing is best done in full sun. It's not usually that good on them beautiful overcast days.
We're talking poppers.
I'm not talking poppers.
We're talking Czar spooks.
Super spooks.
We're talking walking baits.
We're talking the big SB 125.
Yeah, but if you're going up there, you need a popper, you need the walking baits, and like George says, they throw them big ones, those real big top waters too. But some kind of walking bait and some poppers.
Yeah, well, you can bring all the poppers you want. Just keep them out of my tackle box because I'm throwing super spooks, not juniors. I'm throwing evergreen SB 125s. I might downsize to a 105 once in a while. And that size of topwater. And I'm casting them a country mile on huge flats on sunny days.
Yeah.
With a little ripple.
I agree
on
with
the
that.
water.
I totally agree with that.
And the other thing I'm doing is throwing a big heavy spinnerbait. And I took this spinnerbait off of my computer. I had this spinnerbait's been hanging on my computer for many years. And this is probably the greatest number one spinnerbait combination that I could ever throw. This was a tournament fish spinnerbait on Lake Champlain, and it was from one of the greatest week of spinnerbait fishing I ever had in my life. And every time I go up north, chartreuse on chartreuse plays.
Yeah.
So when you go up north on spinnerbait,
Like it better towards the end of the summer.
all chartreuse, blades, skirt, golden shiner, and spot remover. Those three spinnerbaits will carry you far. Yes, there are 99 other spinnerbait combinations that are world famous. I got one I call the Big Dog. He comes out to play under certain circumstance. He's so big, I throw him on a flipping stick. I mean, there's a time and a place for that. But there's an incredible amount of shallow, giant smallmouth. And I'll give you a prime example. Places like Lake Ontario and Lake Erie have a massive, shallow smallmouth population. Places like all the Finger Lakes on the shoals, Lake Champlain on the shoals. But you got to have a little wind. You will not catch these fish on flat, calm days on them shallow waters very often.
Yep.
And when you do, it's a magical day. Now, two other techniques and baits, which we've talked about on Tackle Shop Live, but we must speak of because we're putting together the shallow side of the northern swing smallmouth equation. I'm sorry. The spy bait and the hair jig.
That hair jig thing is relatively new.
Well, it's relatively new to Mike and I.
It is. It's relatively new to 90% of smallmouth fishermen out there.
But we are learning rapidly that it has great
Yeah.
drawing power on shallow fish.
Mhm.
And the standard, I mean, you can come in the shop here, or you can go to sfttackle.com and get a 1/8 ounce VMC marabou hair jig, which is super high quality, or a Kalen's marabou hair jig, which is super high quality, has the right kind of hook in it. We talked about it on Tackle Shop Live. Put a little piece of that torn up Senko on the shank of the hook for weight. Put it on a long rod because you have got to cast it a long way.
Super light line.
A light braid,
6
with a
pound.
light 6 to 8 pound leader,
Yep.
and
6 pound, not 8 pound. 6
let it
pound.
rip, and basically just wind it in like a swim bait most of the time.
Yeah.
The other bait that falls into this category up north that is absolutely one of the greatest big fish baits ever is a spy bait.
Yep.
And there's all kinds of spy baits on the market. I mean, you have every brand out there. The good old fashioned Duo Realis, the ones that made it famous. They got a phenomenal spy bait. It's a little confusing, but don't overthink it. Again, light line, 8 pound fluorocarbon, long cast, slow, steady retrieve. Nothing fancy. Fantastic. So, the shallow window up there is going to be preferably a walking bait, several big spinner baits. And by big, I mean the lightest spinner bait you're going to throw up there is 1/2 ounce. You don't need, for smallmouth fishing up north, you don't even need anything.
We talked about smallmouth spinner baiting last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and we didn't really go into the up north factor.
But the thing about it is, and reason number 2 reason to have a big heavy one is the distance.
Yeah.
Clearing that long distance cast, because it's shallow, clear water. You got to make those long casts.
Yeah, I mean, I live personally when I go up north, I live on a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, just like 99% of what I do is a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait.
You can get it out of there. You can get it away from your boat. And
I might downsize to a 1/2 ounce just because I like some hidden weight spinnerbaits with smaller blades, but
that cast and crash thing is definitely living up in the shallow, clear water of the Finger Lakes. So, all right. So I think
Question.
Yeah.
So George, for the spy bait and the Malibu jig or the Marabou jig, is that the same rod you're using for both? Is this
no.
you can.
You can.
You absolutely can.
I don't know.
I don't.
A true hair jig rod, is a 7.6 to 7.10 rod. Literally super light. It's a very, very specialized technique. It's something that it works fantastic, and it's really coming on strong. We all have to learn it and figure it out. And we're even going to be these next couple of weeks, we're going to be messing with it out here on the Susquehanna River on some of our flats. We just never really did it out here. It was just a new technique and something new, but up there, they love it. It absolutely plays. They've been doing it for years up there. But you need specialized equipment for that. That's a very specialized technique. Light line, I mean, like 10-pound braid is heavy, super heavy. You got to go light 8-pound braid. You got to go 6-pound test leader. You got to go with that piece of Senko on there. Is very, very important. You got to mess with the length of that to try to get that right, so it adds as much weight as possible.
You just want to put it on the hook shank.
And what it does, it flares out the Marabou also. It gives that nice bulky profile, and you got to be able to cast that 100 million miles. Spy bait is nice because the tackle we can fish it on. A 7 foot medium action rod. You can fish it on that. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're messing with some of these techniques. But so anyway,
that's a condensed version of the Northern Swing.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want to get into all this crazy stuff because it's not that hard up there, and everybody that goes up there, they read all this stuff and they get confused. So you can keep it very simple, but go up there, have a good time, fish those lakes. It's unbelievable.
Well, we tried to cover a lot of turf tonight.
The experiences
not easy.
Experiences are really crazy good. So, you definitely want to experience that. It's so much fun. It really is. I mean, so I think we covered it really well. So if you and as always, people, you have questions, we have answers. Call here to shop, stop in, email us, whatever it takes, we'll get back with you. We'll tell you what, some of the things, we'll show you some of the things, and then we'll answer your questions to kind of clarify some of this information. And you can listen to this over and over again too, to kind of pick up on some of the subtleties that you might have missed. All right, so we're going to move on here, and we got some tackle we want to talk about. And this section is called Tackle Talk. Yeah. Well, we've been waiting a long time. We've been told many, many ship dates. We've been told many, many other things, and we finally got them. The Missile Shaky Headworm is here. What is this thing, George? What is it? We're so excited about this.
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily call it a shaky headworm. That's one of the techniques. It's called the magic worm. And it's a collaboration between Missile Baits and Robo Worm. Let me get one out of the bag here for you. So we kind of teased this a little while ago. Our good friends at Missile sent us some samples, and we sort of teased it a little bit. But this is built in the Robo Worm fashion. So those of you who are not aware of the Robo Worm style, they're basically hand poured worms. And this section right here on the underside of the worm, this section from the head down to here, there's a high density of salt on the bottom of the worm. And the reason they do that is to give you that salt content that the fish, hold on to. But the rest of the worm is more buoyant because salt's heavy. And it kills that buoyancy of that worm, okay? So the worm style is a little different from, say, a Robo Worm 6-inch straight tail or a 6-inch straight tail fat. It's sort of a hybrid between, say, a trick worm and a finesse worm.
Mm-hmm.
And to Mike's deal there, it's shaky head worm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a drop shot worm.
Yep.
It's a Nico rig worm.
Yeah.
It's a wacky rig worm. All the above. Okay. It's done in that Robo Worm tricolor, laminate hand pour style.
The colors are just spectacular.
This one here is called Green Pumpkin Money.
It's the colors are really, really cool on this. And this no doubt is going to be a huge player in the finesse worm.
It's a primo
market,
worm.
for sure.
It's a primo worm that, you're obviously going to find the Missile Pro staff relying on heavily. Passion Shad. Whoops. He down.
Passion Shad gone.
I got a little worm oil on me there. How about Junebug Dawn?
I like that. Nice
Junebug Dawn.
Dark purples in there, man. That thing's sweet.
And how about John's Juice? This is named after our owner of Missile. You can misinterpret some things here, but it's John's Juice. It's got that chocolate.
Yeah.
Morning Dawn.
Well, what's nice about it is I think it is Morning Dawn on top, but that chocolate really tames it down and it gives it that real rich, color that you don't see. You're always, sometimes you want that toned down pink, that toned down Morning Dawn.
How about
that thing? It really does it. Does it nice.
Missile Morning.
Yeah. Does that have red flake in it?
Oh my God.
Does that have red flake in it?
It does have some fine red flake in it.
Yeah. That's what everybody wants right there.
So
that worm there might or might not catch you a few fish. I don't know. You have to check it out.
Blueback Secret, PBJ Time, Watermelon Violet.
What's that one?
Lava Crusher.
Show them that.
Lava Crusher.
Yeah. Look at this thing.
When you want to be noticed in a crowd, we recommend Lava Crusher. So it's basically a desert orange themed combination with like a old school red. Very, very nice. And how about Bruiser Flash? Now, if you're a Missile Baits fan, if you don't have used some deep bombs and Bruiser Flash, we're going to have to ask you to exit the show here because, that's as American as $3,000 worth of fireworks and 2 cases of Miller Lite on the 4th of July. I'm just here to tell you that right now. If you ain't at that level. So yeah, Missile Baits collab with Robo Worm, the magic worm from the mind of John Cruz and his pro staff and employees. He's got some hardcore, Bassin employees that work there. I'm talking
Definitely.
guys that are behind the scenes.
They are really,
that
really
are
bass heads, man.
just hammer time.
Yep.
And here's another worm. It's got a price point of $10.99. It's a little pricey. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's a premium quality bait. And let's go.
Yeah.
They're in stock. Heavy. We got heavy artillery in stock. And, it's finesse worm season. Let's face it. You can drop shot, wacky rig, Nico rig, shaky head rig. Now we're going to talk about the somewhat confusing and misunderstood world of DC reels.
Yeah. So I think I wanted to bring this up, and I talked about it a little bit earlier. Is DC's the stock is starting to come back a little bit. So you're going to be able to find them pretty much readily available now. And the reason we have to bring this back is because we lost some of that understanding of what DC is all about. Shimano came out with the SLX DC and the Corrado DC. These are the two reels that are kind of leading the way. Everybody knows the Corrado as being, a time-tested machine that you can fish and have and perform at optimal levels for a great price. And the SLX is a even a better priced reel on the market. Very affordable for a lot of people. And then they pushed it through with DC in it. The sweet thing about these reels is the DC mechanism is the same on both of them. The SLX and the Corrado have the same DC mechanism. The reason you would go to the Corrado is for durability, longevity. They have some updated features. They have the micro modular gearing. They have the bigger drag system.
Lighter spool.
The lighter spool for even better casting.
Aluminum side plates A and B.
Aluminum side plates A and B. So there you have it. But it's the same exact casting control system in the SLX as the Corrado.
They're really hard to tell apart on the cast.
Yeah, we and George have one of each of them, and we fish them both all the time.
They're very hard to tell apart
when you cast them. The cast is miraculous. Now the problem that happened is when they first brought these out in 2020, I believe it was at ICAST.
No, it was before that.
2019.
At least, if not 2018.
I don't think it was that long ago. Was they sold it wrong? They sold it as a anti-backlash mechanism, and it does very well with that. Don't get me wrong, and it has a very easy way to adjust it. But there is a little bit you have to kind of mess with a little bit to get these reels to cast perfectly, and you have to get used to casting them. Once you just know that you're casting a DC reel and you get to that nice smooth casting, it's not an overpowering thing. It's nothing about power. It's just a nice smooth cast, letting the lure and the rod load up and throw the lure out there. You can't beat the DC casting system for distance and for accuracy. You absolutely can't beat the DC casting system. There's other companies have great casting systems too, but this one here, nobody hands down can beat the distance and accuracy.
But there is some setup concerns. And there is that, to Mike's kind of what he's leading us to say is, you have to cast the reel correctly.
Yeah.
I don't care whose bait caster you throw, the DC, the Tatula SV, the whatever. Pick an Antares out of the case over here, whatever. If you don't cast correctly, if you don't load the rod and unload the rod with a correct action, you're going to have problems. So DC, assuming that you cast correctly, DC is absolutely phenomenal. And it
It's
does cover
spectacular.
up. It does cover up a lot of flaws. And I think it makes you better because you gain more confidence in your casting ability if you're novice. Because it does a very basically what you have is an electric controlled magnetic system that pulses the spool roughly 1,000 times a second at 4 preset levels. So number 1 is your pitching setting. And that's basically for not loading up the rod, not launching the bait. It's for underhand pitching where you want a minimal amount of braking.
Yeah.
So that you can get a fast lure speed for a low trajectory and for some distance. Where you're going to live on this reel is 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think you spend a lot of time on those.
You're going to live on 2 and 3. 2's a little quicker than 3. And they call one fluorocarbon and one braid.
Two
whatever.
is your floor. 2 is your braid setting, and 3 is your fluorocarbon setting.
I just know that I go back and forth between 2 and 3. If I'm throwing a bait into a wind and I'm getting a little bit of fluff on 2, I bang it up to 3. But there's times when you're on 3 and your bait will cast better on 2 and you'll actually have less of a chance of a fluff. I'm not even using the word backlash here. I'm talking about loose line. And don't forget, as with all casting reels, a little thumb monitoring is required for optimal performance. But here's the whole secret, Mike, to the setup. So when you get your beautiful Corrado home, DC, you take it out of the package and you're sitting on the couch and you're like, oh, Billy. First thing you're going to do is you're going to kind of back this knob off your cast control. And you want to feel just a little bit of spool movement. So if you back that up, you can kind of feel that spool moving left and right. That means that this cast control cap is not touching the axle on the spool. And then slowly tighten that up as you move that spool left and right. And when that goes away, you basically don't have a lot of use for this anymore. Now, is that to say that you can't add a little bit of cast control? Certainly you can. Don't be afraid to experiment with that. But the reel's designed for minimal cast control. As a matter of fact, if this body wasn't being used for a regular Corrado and this was a standalone reel, it probably wouldn't even have a cast control on it, to be truthful. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, by the way, is the skipping feature. So it's max braking. It's really good for skipping.
Yeah, you can skip. You can learn how to skip with it very easily.
It's also really good for blasting a lighter weight lure into a heavy wind.
Yep.
And that is DC demystified.
Yeah. So I know a lot of guys have been looking for DCs. There's a good stock of them in our store right now. And then finally, we also have left-handed versions for you guys that were dying to get your left-handed versions. We have Corrado, DC in left hand.
Oh, and we got plenty of them.
Yeah, we got lots of them. So
we became the DC outlet store for the United States of America.
Yeah, we got a bunch of them, so they're available. So you have that you can check out, and you can get online and order them up.
So you got that going for you.
Okay,
all right, Mike, wrap this puppy up.
Any questions on any of that stuff we discussed tonight? Make sure you give us a call. Don't forget to get on our social media with your picture of your hat, with a picture of you holding a fish or any type of fishing picture. We don't care. We'll take it. Holding a fish would be great, but we're not. We're going to judge the picture. We're not judging the content. Judging the picture. So we'll check that all out. Like, subscribe to all of our social media. Love it. William Clute, thank you so much. Joseph Castorino, thank you for all the great comments throughout this whole thing.
His mother calls him Joseph. He prefers Joe.
Robert Bretts, thanks for great comments. Brian Ward, thanks for stopping by. Don Swaggart, watching from California. Glad to see you're in California. I don't know why you want to be in California, but great
Be
for
careful
you.
out there, Don.
Yep. Johnny Kopp, good to see you, bud. Everybody who stopped in tonight, thank you so much. And for all of us here at Tackle Shop Live, we'll see you next time. And great fishing.
I met you on a sunny day. Right there, you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you.